She walked into Judge Judy's courtroom like the rules didn't exist, loud, smirking, interrupting before the first question was even finished. Once became 5, 5 became 11. Each interruption pushed the room closer to explosion. You could feel it. The air got heavier. The audience stopped breathing. Even the bailiff tensed up. Everyone expected Judge Judy to snap, to shout, to warn her one last time. Instead, she did something far colder. One quiet move, one sentence, and in seconds, Karen went from confident to completely powerless. What happened next didn't just end the argument, it changed the entire case and left the courtroom in stunned silence. The smirk is still on her face when Judge Judy lifts her eyes, slow, sharp, and already tired of the interruptions. The air shifts. Something brittle forms in the silence. She walked into the courtroom like gravity belonged to her alone, each step loud, deliberate, as if the floor should feel lucky she bothered to walk on it. The camera follows her strut to the defendant's podium, catching the way she tosses her hair and flashes that smug half-smile at the audience, as if this entire place were an inconvenience she planned to conquer. The plaintiff watches her with quiet disbelief, hands clasped, shoulders drawn inward, a person who has learned to live in the shadow of someone louder, someone who interrupts until the truth cannot breathe. Their contrast is immediate, one shrinking to make room, the other expanding to fill every corner. Judge Judy begins speaking, voice steady, the kind of calm that warns more than any raised tone could, but Karen cuts her off before the first question even forms. A quick, dismissive wave of her hand, a loud, "No, that's not how it happened," delivered with the confidence of someone who believes volume equals truth. A murmur ripples through the gallery, short, surprised, tightening the edges of the room. Judy doesn't flinch, she simply waits. And Karen, mistaking silence for surrender, keeps going. One interruption becomes two. Two becomes a rhythm, a performance, a shield. The camera shifts to the bailiff, who is gone perfectly still. His stare narrows just slightly, the kind of physical stillness that says he is ready for escalation without needing to move an inch. Even the fluorescent lights seem to buzz differently, their hum blending with the restless energy building in the room. As Karen continues talking, Judy's expression does not change. Her eyes track each interrupting word the way a surgeon studies a pulse, looking for weakness, timing, pattern. She writes something on the pad in front of her, slowly, deliberately. But she's not taking notes, she's making calculations. The plaintiff attempts to speak, gently, politely, but Karen swings her gaze at them and interrupts again, dismissing them with a scoff. The audience shifts in their seats, discomfort rising like steam. Everyone sees it. She is not just rude, she is desperate to stay louder than the truth. Judy lifts her eyes again, and this time the room adjusts around her, quieting, tightening, waiting. Karen does not notice. She interrupts a fourth time, then a fifth, her voice higher now, her words sharper, trying too hard to dominate. The smirk on her face is still there, but it is thinning. Judy sets down her pen. Slow, controlled, final. The first crack appears, invisible but unmistakable. Karen opens her mouth to interrupt again, and Judy's pen stops moving entirely. The pen freezes. The courtroom does too. Even the lights seem to pause, waiting for the next rupture. Karen does not notice the stillness she has created. She is too busy savoring her own voice, filling the room with explanations nobody asked for. Her hands move as dramatically as her words, wide, sweeping gestures meant to overpower logic itself. She believes she is winning because she is loud. She believes silence means she has the floor. But silence in Judge Judy's courtroom is a warning, not permission. Judy finally speaks, her voice low, almost quiet enough to be mistaken for patience. "Answer the question I asked." The softness of it unsettles the room. As if the temperature has dropped by a few degrees, Karen steps forward, trying to reclaim dominance. "What I am trying to say is," she interrupts again, 6 times now. Her words push out like a storm against a door that will not open. The plaintiff flinches when she does it, shrinking back, their hands tightening on the papers they brought, papers that matter, papers they have waited weeks to show. The camera moves in on their face, embarrassment first, then something heavier, exhaustion. Judge Judy turns slightly toward them, acknowledging their presence not with words, but with a single pointed glance that says, I see what is happening. Karen does not see it. She cannot see anything beyond herself. The bailiff shifts his stance. It is subtle, one foot adjusting, shoulders angling toward the action. He is not intervening. He is preparing. The audience picks up on it immediately, their murmurs fading into a hush that vibrates under the fluorescent lights. Judy lowers her voice further. When I ask a question, you do not speak over me. The sentence lands without volume, without anger, and yet Karen's smirk flickers, just barely, as if something inside her recognizes danger but refuses to admit it. To regain footing, Karen launches into a new explanation. Faster, louder. The edges of panic slip into the corners of her voice, disguised as confidence. She does not realize that she sounds less convincing the more she talks. She does not realize the audience has stopped reacting. She does not realize Judy is no longer writing anything down. The air thickens, not with noise, but with anticipation. The kind of anticipation that comes right before a shift in power. Judy closes the file in front of her, not abruptly, not theatrically, but with a quiet finality that sends a ripple of tension through the entire room. A single, controlled motion. A signal only the wise notice. Karen swallows. Her smirk retreats a fraction. For the first time, she senses something slipping. Judy folds her hands, looks directly at Karen, and the smirk vanishes entirely. The moment Karen realizes the judge has been waiting for her to make this mistake. The file stays closed, yet the pressure rises. Patterns have power, and Judge Judy has just found hers. Karen stands stiff, her smirk now a fragile outline of what it used to be. She waits for Judy to speak, but the judge does not rush. She studies Karen the way someone studies a puzzle piece that has never fit the board, slowly, intentionally, certain something is off, and then Judy says it, calm, sharp, leaving no room for escape. Your interruptions are not helping you. Karen stiffens. I'm only trying to correct. There, Judy cuts in. That is what I'm talking about. The room reacts like a living thing, breath drawn in, anticipation tightening the air. Karen blinks, thrown off rhythm, and for the first time she hesitates. Hesitation is oxygen for Judy. She leans forward slightly, not to intimidate, but to examine. The camera zooms in on Karen's face, capturing the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. It is not just rude, Judy continues. It is calculated. Every time the plaintiff speaks, you cut them off. Every time I ask something you do not want to answer, suddenly you have a story. Her tone remains even, but the impact lands heavy. The audience murmurs again, this time not in surprise, but in recognition. The plaintiff finally tries to speak. They begin gently, almost timidly, describing how Karen behaved outside the courtroom, how she dismissed them, overrode them, spoke for them. The words are not dramatic, but they are heavy, slow truths dripping into the room like water finding cracks in stone. Karen interrupts immediately, loud, defensive, desperate. That is not true. Judy raises one eyebrow. One. Karen's words evaporate. The judge turns her attention back to the plaintiff. Continue. It is not just permission, it is restoration. The plaintiff's voice shakes at first, but steadies as they describe how Karen's behavior made them feel unseen, unheard, and disrespected long before this day. Their hands gesture softly, contrasting Karen's aggressive movements. The camera catches Karen clenching the edge of the podium, knuckles whitening. It is no longer about the case, it is about control. The pattern is the evidence. Judy shifts back to Karen. Your behavior out there matches your behavior in here. This is a pattern. Karen shakes her head fast, too fast. No, I was just trying to explain. Interrupting again, Judy notes, not raising her voice, not even looking up from her clasped hands. Karen freezes. The gallery becomes still, as if the weight of what Judy just exposed has pressed everyone into silence. Patterns do not lie. And Judy has turned Karen's own behavior into a spotlight. Karen tries one more time, softer now. I did not mean. Judy lifts her hand slightly. Karen swallows the rest of the sentence. Judy asks a question Karen cannot answer without interrupting, and the room holds its breath, waiting to see if she can stop herself. She goes to interrupt, but Judy raises one finger, and the entire room stops. Karen freezes mid-breath, her mouth still open, the the start of another excuse balanced on the edge of her tongue. But that single raised finger cuts through everything: noise, ego, momentum. It is not loud, it is not threatening, it is control in its purest form. Silence spreads outward like ripples from a stone hitting water. The audience stiffens, the bailiff straightens. Even the fluorescent lights seem to hum more quietly, as if warned. The camera moves in close, centering on Judy's face, unmoved, unbothered, impossibly calm. That calmness frightens Karen more than anger ever could. "Do not speak," Judy says softly. Not a shout, not a warning, a verdict. Karen's shoulders inch upward defensively. "But the finger lifts a fraction higher. Karen swallows the rest of her words. Judy lets the silence breathe, not for a second or two, longer. Long enough that the stillness becomes a mirror, forcing Karen to see her own behavior reflected back at her. Long enough for the plaintiff to exhale tension they did not realize they were holding. Long enough for the courtroom to feel the emotional fracture forming in real time. When Judy finally lowers her hand, she does not lean back. She leans forward. Her voice remains controlled, each word sharp without needing volume. "Your interruptions are no longer disrespectful. They are revealing." Karen blinks. "Revealing what?" "That you are afraid of something in this file." Judy opens the folder with a deliberate slowness, as if peeling back the lid of a box that contains truth Karen hoped would stay buried. A single sheet of paper lies at the top. Judy slides it out, tapping it once against the desk. Soft, rhythmic, intentional. Karen's breath quickens. "Before we discuss your version," Judy says, "we will discuss your message." The plaintiff stiffens. The audience shifts. Karen's eyes dart toward the paper as if trying to read it upside down from 6 feet away. Her throat works in a swallow that does not fully complete. Judy reads aloud. "If you say anything different from what we agreed, you will regret it." Gasps ripple through the room, quiet but unmistakable. Karen shakes her head violently. "No, that is out of context. That is not... I never..." Judy raises the finger again. Karen's words collapse instantly. "Enough," Judy says. "The message speaks for itself." Karen's face drains of color. She reaches for the podium to steady herself, fingers trembling just enough for the camera to catch it. Judy folds the message neatly, placing it back into the file with slow precision, an executioner sheathing a blade. Then she looks directly at Karen. "Would you like to explain," Judy asks, "why this message contradicts everything you just said?" The message hangs in the air like smoke, thin, sour, impossible to ignore. Karen's mouth opens, but no sound comes out, not at first. Her jaw trembles with a denial she cannot quite form, her eyes darting between the plaintiff, the audience, and Judge Judy as if searching for an escape hatch that does not exist. The confidence she strutted in with is gone. What remains is the shaky silhouette of someone who just realized the room is not hers to control. "That message," Judy says, tapping the paper once, "did not write itself." Karen finally finds her voice. I was just trying to keep her from lying." Her tone wavers, the sentence collapsing under its own weight before it even reaches the end of the podium. The plaintiff flinches at the word lying. They clutch their hands together, steadying a tremble. The camera pans to their face, hurt mixing with disbelief, as if this moment is forcing them to relive every time Karen dismissed them, overrode them, or talked over their truth. Judy does not react with outrage. She reacts with logic, ice-cold logic. "If you believed she might lie, you should have brought evidence, not threats." Karen shakes her head quickly, too quickly. "It was not a threat. I meant exactly what you wrote," Judy finishes for her. A soft murmur rolls through the audience. Even the bailiff's expression tightens, his jaw flexing in that barely noticeable way that says he has seen many lies in this courtroom, but this one is wearing thin. Karen tries again, her voice climbing. "I was upset, okay? I was frustrated. She was making things difficult." "And so you chose intimidation as communication," Judy says, cutting through the justification like a scalpel. Karen swallows hard. Her hand grips the podium until her knuckles turn pale. She forces a laugh, thin, brittle, desperate. It was just a joke. She knew that. The plaintiff lifts their head. "I did not." Their voice trembles, but it carries enough truth to still the room. Judy nods once, acknowledging the impact of those 3 words. Then she turns back to Karen. Jokes do not usually include consequences for telling the truth. Karen's breathing grows uneven. The arrogance that once propelled every interruption now folds inward, shrinking under the spotlight she can no longer outrun. She glances at the audience, hoping for sympathy. All she finds are eyes watching her unravel. Judy flips the message over, laying it flat like evidence on a surgical table. Your behavior in this courtroom mirrors the behavior in this message. You interrupt when cornered. You talk over others when the truth threatens you. You escalate when facts appear. Karen's lips part again, but her voice betrays her. Soft, strained, cracking at the edges. I did not mean to scare her. Judy leans forward, softly, almost gently. But you did. That gentleness is what finally breaks Karen's composure. Her chin quivers, her breath catching in a tight, visible knot. Judy's eyes narrow. And now, we are going to talk about what else you tried to hide. The courtroom feels smaller now, as if shrinking around every excuse she has left. Karen tries to stand taller, but her posture betrays her. Her shoulders slope inward, her chin tucks down, and her hands, once dramatic and commanding, cling to the podium like it is the only stable thing left in the room. The shift is quiet, but unmistakable. Power leaving her body inch by inch. Judge Judy watches her without blinking. Not unkindly, not harshly, just truthfully. And Karen is not used to truth staring back. All right, Judy says, single sentences only. Her tone is not punitive, it is diagnostic, a way to expose the truth by removing every place Karen could hide. Karen nods too quickly, eyes wide. Yes, I can do that. I mean, yes. Already, she stumbles. Judy turns to the plaintiff. Tell me what happened next. And for the first time, Karen does not immediately interrupt. The plaintiff speaks slowly, carefully, describing the timeline with steady clarity. Dates, times, screenshots. Their voice is not confident, it is wounded, but that makes every word heavier. The camera lingers on their hands, trembling slightly as they trace the outline of a printed receipt. A timestamp, a small detail, but devastating. Karen snaps her head toward it, eyes widening. No, that's wrong. I was at work then, Judy raises one eyebrow. Karen's voice collapses mid-sentence, shrinking into a whisper. I think. Judy taps the receipt. This shows you left work at 3:12. You told me you stayed until 5. Karen licks her lips, panic blooming. I must have remembered wrong. That's a 2-hour difference, Judy replies. Memory does not usually bend that far without help. Karen's breath stutters. She grips the podium harder, knuckles whitening again. Her gaze flicks to the audience, searching for someone, anyone, who might validate her story. Nobody moves. The silence becomes another witness. The plaintiff continues, describing how Karen changed her story multiple times when confronted. Each contradiction lands like a small hammer blow, loosening the last nails of Karen's composure. Judy lets the plaintiff finish before looking back at Karen. Your story changed 3 times. Why? Karen's eyes shine, not from tears, but from the panic of someone losing their grip on a lie. I was stressed. I was overwhelmed. She kept accusing me of things, and I just... She trails off, breath trembling. Judy leans in slightly. This would be the part where honesty might help you, if you have any. The words do not strike loudly. They strike deeply. Karen looks down at her hands. For the first time, she seems to realize they are shaking. She opens her mouth, ready to finally explain. But the next reveal is already waiting, sitting in Judy's hand like a quiet storm about to break. If you were sitting in that courtroom, would you stay silent or step in to stop the chaos? Karen tries to rebuild her confidence, but every word she reaches for crumbles in her hands. She straightens her spine, forcing her shoulders back as though posture alone could glue her dignity together. The camera catches the attempt, the small inhale, the lifted chin, the flicker of bravado returning to her eyes. It is almost convincing. Almost. Let me just explain, Karen begins, voice carefully measured, but the tremor in her hands betrays her. Judge Judy does not interrupt. She does something far more unnerving. She waits. Her stillness becomes a mirror Karen cannot avoid, forcing her to hear how shaky her own control sounds. The plaintiff watches with quiet patience, arms wrapped lightly around their stack of documents. The rhythm of breathing in the room changes, slower, heavier, as if everyone is bracing for a fire that is beginning to feed on its own oxygen. Karen steadies herself and forces out, "I was not trying to threaten anyone. I just wanted her to stop twisting everything." Judy responds with a calm that cuts deeper than reprimand. She is not the one twisting anything. Karen tightens her grip on the podium again. Her knuckles have become their own color. "You are taking her side. You are not even listening to me." The audience shifts. A few eyebrows rise. Everyone recognizes the pattern. When logic fails, she attacks perception. Judy lifts her gaze. "I have listened to every word you said. I'm just not believing the ones that do not make sense." Karen flinches, as though truth itself has weight. The plaintiff speaks up softly, their voice careful, almost protective of the moment. "I just wanted her to stop yelling at me. That is all I wanted." The simplicity of it hits harder than accusation. It strips the chaos down to something painfully human. Karen swings toward them, voice rising. "I was not yelling. I was trying to get you to understand," Judy cuts in. "There it is." Karen freezes. "That, right there." Judy gestures gently toward her. "You only interrupt when the narrative stops serving you." The silence that follows is not empty. It is charged, glowing like the air above a flame. Karen's attempt to regain control is melting, drop by drop, under the heat of her own contradictions. Then, Judy reaches to her right and lifts a second document. The room adjusts its posture. Karen goes pale. She has not seen this one. Her eyes widen as though she recognizes the weight of an envelope before its contents are revealed. The bailiff's attention sharpens. The plaintiff presses their lips together, bracing for impact. Judy lays the document flat. Her finger rests on the header, just long enough for Karen to feel the pressure of what is coming. "This," Judy says softly, "is the part of your story you hoped would never surface." The second document lands like a quiet bomb. No sound, just shock expanding through the room. Judy slides the paper toward the edge of her bench with a slow, deliberate motion. The kind of motion that tells everyone watching that she already knows exactly what this document contains and exactly how deeply it will cut. The camera zooms in on the plaintiff's widened eyes, then on Karen's trembling fingers as she grips the podium harder, desperate for something solid in a room rapidly tilting beneath her feet. "This," Judy begins, tapping the header, "is a timeline." Her voice is calm, steady, but under it runs a current of coming impact. Karen swallows. "I already explained the timeline." "No," Judy replies without looking up. "You explained a version, not the truth." A ripple of tension breaks across the audience. Judy lifts the document so only she can see it fully, but its weight is felt by everyone. "According to your statements today, you never agreed to anything the plaintiff claimed." Karen nods quickly, too eagerly. "Right, exactly, I never did." Judy lowers the page, and there it is, her signature, bold, clear, impossible to wiggle out of. The plaintiff brings a hand to their mouth, a gasp escaping in the smallest, sharpest exhale. The bailiff shifts his stance just slightly, to steady the emotional gravity collapsing inward. Karen stares at the document as if willing the signature to transform into someone else's handwriting. That is not... I do not remember signing." "You do not have to remember it," Judy says. "You did it." Karen's fingers curl into fists. Her breath turns shallow. "This is being blown out of proportion. That paperwork does not even mean anything." "It means," Judy interrupts, leaning forward, "that you lied, repeatedly, and with confidence." Karen shakes her head violently. "I did not lie. I just got confused. That is all." The plaintiff speaks softly. "You were not confused when you yelled at me about it last month." Karen freezes. The audience reacts. A small, collective gasp, a low murmur. The camera zooms in on her eyes, fear widening behind the last remnants of arrogance. Judy places the document back on the bench. This timeline came from a third party, someone who watched all of this unfold. Karen swallows. "Who?" Her voice is a frayed whisper, stripped of the bravado she protected herself with. Judy lets the silence stretch, measured, unforgiving, before answering. This document came from your workplace. The words hit her harder than the signature. Her shoulders collapse inward. Her hands fall away from the podium. It is the kind of shock that drains color from a person's face, leaving nothing but the raw truth beneath the performance. The audience leans forward, breath held as if the next sound might break the fragile air. Judy's gaze sharpens. "And the person who sent it," she says, "knows exactly what you did." Her confidence does not shatter all at once. It fractures slowly, like glass under pressure. Karen stands frozen, staring at the bench as though the truth itself has taken physical form and lunged at her. Moments ago, she wielded her voice like a weapon. Now she cannot seem to find it. Her throat works in a tight swallow, but the sound never fully forms. Judge Judy folds her hands, not sternly, not impatiently, just knowingly. The kind of posture that tells the entire room she has seen this collapse 100 times before, and she recognizes the signs of ego giving way to fear. "Your workplace provided this," Judy says, tapping the document once, "because they wanted the truth in this courtroom." Karen's breath stutters. Why would they send that?" They had no reason to," she falters, the rest of the sentence dissolving into air. "That," Judy replies, "is what I'm interested in." The audience leans in. The plaintiff lowers their eyes, almost sympathetic, almost. Even the bailiff seems to soften his stance, though his attention remains sharp. Karen tries again. "Someone must be targeting me. That's the only explanation." But the words are thin, whispered, unconvincing. "The only person targeting you," Judy says evenly, "is yourself." The color drains from Karen's face. Her hands slip from the podium, hovering uselessly in the space between surrender and denial. Her eyes dart back and forth as though trying to find a version of reality that still protects her. Judy continues, her tone calm, steady, surgical. "You gave one story, then another, then another. Now your own coworker has provided documentation contradicting all three." The plaintiff glances at Karen, their expression softening for half a second, but pain stays rooted beneath it. They finally whisper, "You yelled at me for telling the truth." Karen reacts like a flame touching cold water, shrinking, sputtering. "I did not yell," she insists weakly. I was overwhelmed." Her voice cracks, a thin, fragile sound. Judy leans forward an inch. "If this is you overwhelmed, imagine how she felt." The words settle heavily across the room. Karen stares at the floor, shoulders sinking in a slow collapse, like she is realizing for the first time that someone else has been living inside the consequences of her choices. Her breath comes uneven now, short, sharp inhales she tries to hide by turning slightly away. But the camera catches everything. The trembling jaw, the glossy eyes, the collapse creeping up her posture like a slow wave. Then Judy deals the next blow, but not a loud one. "Karen," she says, voice steady as steel wrapped in velvet, "someone at your job sent this because they wanted to stop covering for you." Karen's eyes snap upward, panic erupting behind them. Who? Who did it?" She sounds less like someone defending herself and more like someone watching the walls close in. Judy lets the silence answer for her. Karen whispers, "Just tell me, who betrayed me?" And Judy's expression says, "The truth will hurt far more than the name." The name Judy speaks lands like a blow, not loud but devastating. Karen's breath stops, not figuratively, literally. Her chest rises, then freezes as if her body refuses to inhale until she understands what she just heard. Judy sets the document down with careful precision. "This timeline came from someone who works directly with you, someone who signed it willingly." The courtroom leans forward as one organism, audience, plaintiff, even the bailiff, with a silence so dense it feels physical. Karen stammers, "Who?" She tries to sound angry, but the fear under the surface cracks every word. Judy studies her for a long moment before answering. "Your coworker, Melissa." The reaction is immediate. Karen's hands fly to the podium, clutching it as though the wood could stop her world from tilting. Her expression twists. Shock first, then disbelief, then something close to betrayal. The plaintiff watches quietly, absorbing every shift in Karen's face, realizing they are finally witnessing the truth behind the facade. She sent that? Karen whispers. No, she would never do that to me. Judy tilts her head. According to a written statement, she did it to protect the plaintiff and herself. A murmur ripples through the room. Karen's face falls open in stunned confusion. Protect herself? From what? I was helping everyone. I was trying to keep things organized. She always said I was the only one who understood anything. That, Judy says gently but firmly, is not how she described it. Karen shakes her head violently, denial breaking through panic. She told me I was a good leader. She said I handled things better than anyone else. She said, Judy replies, picking up another page, that you handled things by yelling, that you called her at home late at night, that you pressured her to support your story even when it was not true. Karen goes pale. Her fingers slip from the podium. Her balance falters. The bailiff subtly shifts forward, not to intervene but prepared, sensing she might collapse under the weight of her own unraveling. The plaintiff lowers their eyes, empathy flickering across their expression, though pain remains anchored beneath it. You can see them remembering every moment Karen dismissed them, realizing she did not behave this way only with them. She did it to everyone she considered beneath her. Karen's voice breaks. She promised me she would back me up. The words crumble in her throat, small and wounded. Promises, Judy says, leaning in, do not survive lies. They collapse under them. Karen's breathing changes again, fast, shallow bursts that betray panic. Her eyes dart around the room, searching for someone to defend her, someone to say Melissa is wrong, someone to tell her she still has control. But no one speaks. No one moves. Even the lights seem to dim around the truth finally cornering her. Judy places Melissa's statement on top of the timeline, aligning the pages into a single unified picture of Karen's behavior. Karen slams her palm on the podium, once sharp, desperate, and the entire room freezes as Judy lifts her gaze with chilling calm. The echo of her palm striking the podium still hangs in the air, but it is the silence afterward that hurts her more. The bailiff steps forward on instinct, but Judy lifts a single hand and stops him without even looking his way. The gesture is small, effortless, but it reclaims the room in an instant. The audience exhales a breath they did not realize they were holding. Karen stands frozen, her hand still pressed flat against the podium, as though she cannot believe she struck it. The sharpness of the sound has already faded, but the humiliation remains, blooming across her face in shades of red she cannot hide. Do not do that again, Judy says. Her tone is not raised, not angry, just absolute. Karen's lips tremble. I did not mean, but her voice is too thin to carry the weight of the excuse. Judy leans forward, gaze fixed on her like a mirror she can no longer avoid. This is what happens when your story begins to collapse. Volume replaces truth. Anger replaces logic. Ego replaces accountability. Karen's eyes fill, not with tears, but with something more raw, fear. The plaintiff watches her, shoulders softening with something like sympathy, though pain still anchors their expression. They whisper, "She did the same thing to me." Karen hears it. She winces. Judy picks up the final piece of evidence, a phone, screen black, waiting. The room tightens around it as though recognizing the emotional gravity it holds. Before we continue, Judy says, there is a recording we need to hear. Karen's reaction is immediate. No, that is not fair. Fair, Judy cuts in, is exactly what this is. The bailiff taps the screen, a distorted click, then a breath. Then Karen's voice fills the courtroom, not loud, not demanding, not arrogant, shaking, panicked, terrified. Please, just do what we agreed. I cannot handle another problem right now. I am begging you, please. The plaintiff closes their eyes. The audience goes still. The sound grows heavier, revealing not rage, but desperation. When the recording ends, the silence is unbearable. Karen cannot lift her head. Her hands tremble on the podium, her shoulders curved inward like she is trying to fold into herself. The confidence she wore like armor is gone. All that remains is a woman afraid of losing control, afraid of being seen. Judy speaks gently now, her voice no longer sharp but weighted with truth. This is not the voice of someone threatening others. This is the voice of someone who is overwhelmed, someone who panicked, someone who hides fear behind aggression. Karen's eyes finally lift, wet, wide, vulnerable. But, Judy continues, fear does not excuse the harm you caused. A tear breaks free. Karen does not wipe it away. Her ego has cracked. Her defenses have crumbled, and what remains is the truth of who she is, someone scared to death of being wrong. Judy tilts her head. Tell me, Karen, why were you crying in that message? The question hangs between them, soft but sharp enough to cut through every mask she has left. Karen does not speak at first. Her lips part, close, part again. No sound. Her throat tightens in visible waves as she tries to push something out that refuses to form into words. The camera lingers on her face, the tremor in her lower lip, the sheen gathering in her eyes, the panic that has finally lost the strength to disguise itself as arrogance. Judge Judy waits, not impatiently, not sternly, just waits. The courtroom, sensing the shift, grows impossibly still. Even the rustle of jackets stops. The bailiff softens his stance. The plaintiff watches Karen with an expression that is no longer anger, no longer frustration. Just quiet, aching understanding of someone who has been hurt by her, yet cannot ignore the human unraveling in front of them. Finally, Karen inhales, a shaky, fragile breath. When I left work that day, she starts, voice barely audible. I knew everything was falling apart. Melissa stopped answering me. My supervisor said we needed to talk. I thought they were going to fire me. Her eyes close, and the tears she was holding back spill over. I panicked. I could not sleep. I thought if I just controlled something, anything, I could make the rest stop collapsing. Judy leans back slightly, letting the truth sit without rushing to respond. Karen continues, the words trembling out of her like a confession she has feared and needed at the same time. So I called her. I called the plaintiff. I said things I shouldn't have said, not to hurt her. I needed someone to agree with me. I needed someone to tell me I wasn't losing everything. The plaintiff's eyes soften. The audience shifts, absorbing the rawness of her admission, but Judy does not let the moment drift into pity. Needing help, Judy says softly, is not the same as demanding obedience. Karen looks up, red eyes, streaked mascara, stripped of every shield she carried into the courtroom. I know, she whispers. I know I messed up. I didn't want to look weak. And instead, Judy replies, you looked cruel. The words land, but not as an attack, more like a diagnosis she already knew but could not bear to face. Karen nods slowly, the motion small and broken. I didn't mean to scare her, she says, glancing toward the plaintiff. I was scared. I thought if I yelled, people would listen. I thought being loud meant being strong. Judy's voice softens further, carrying the weight of a truth larger than the case itself. Strength isn't volume, Karen. If anything, volume is what people use when they're afraid they won't be heard. Karen's shoulders collapse. She wipes her face. But the tears keep coming. Quiet, exhausted tears of someone finally confronting the deeper wound behind every defense. The plaintiff watches her, conflicted, hurt but undeniably moved. They speak gently. You didn't have to yell, you just had to talk to me. Karen nods again, breaking entirely this time. The performance is gone. What remains is the woman underneath, small, scared, painfully human. Karen whispers, I didn't mean to ruin everything. And Judy replies, intent doesn't erase impact. Now we decide what comes next. The echoes of her confession linger, soft, trembling, reshaping the room around her. Karen stands there hollowed out, her shoulders still shaking from the emotional collapse that peeled her open in front of the nation. The arrogance that entered this courtroom is nowhere to be found. In its place is someone small, exhausted, and painfully aware of the damage she has done. The room is quiet, not with judgment, but with a heavy collective inhale of what comes next. Judge Judy watches her with a gaze sharpened by decades of seeing through performances, but now for the first time, she sees something real behind Karen's eyes, fear, regret, humanity, and yet none of these erase the consequences. Karen, Judy begins, her tone a delicate blend of steel and compassion. Understanding your panic does not undo the harm. You weaponized fear, you used intimidation as a shield, and you bruised people who were already trying to survive you. Karen nods, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. The plaintiff steps forward slightly, not enough to intrude, but enough to be seen. Their voice is soft but steady. You hurt me. Not just with the yelling, with the way you made me question myself, the way you made me feel small. Karen looks at them with a trembling lower lip. I'm sorry, she whispers, the words barely holding their own weight. I really am. The plaintiff hesitates. The camera catches the flicker of conflict in their expression, anger battling empathy, pain clashing with understanding. They take a breath, then say, I believe you're sorry, but I still need accountability. Judy nods. Exactly. The bailiff shifts as if to punctuate the judge's point, his posture firm but not aggressive. The room feels fuller now, charged with the complicated truth that remorse and consequence can and must coexist. Your panic, Judy continues, does not excuse your choices, but it helps explain them. And that means our focus now shifts from punishment, she pauses, letting Karen's trembling breath hang in the balance, to responsibility. Karen wipes her face, nodding. Her voice cracks. Just tell me what I have to do. I'll do it. Judy's gaze softens just a fraction. The first step, she says, is acknowledging you didn't just make a mistake. You created a pattern of control, of fear, of projecting your chaos onto others. Karen's mouth quivers again. I know, she whispers. Judy turns to the plaintiff. Is there anything else you want to say before I make my ruling? The plaintiff takes a moment, gathering courage. Then, I don't hate her. I just want to feel safe from her. Karen's eyes close as though that sentence was the final weight she deserved to carry. Judy looks back at Karen, her voice low but firm. That, she says, is the impact you must understand. Karen bows her head, shoulders sinking under the truth. Judy folds her hands, eyes narrowing with decision. Now, she says, we talk about consequences. Karen stands smaller now, as if even her shadow refuses to follow her. The courtroom feels different, not tense, not explosive, just heavy. A weight settles over everyone, the kind that arrives only after truth has finished ripping through the room, leaving pieces behind for everyone to see. Karen wipes her cheeks again, but the tears keep forming, soft and relentless. She looks at the podium as though it is the only thing keeping her upright. The bravado she clung to is gone. The echo of who she pretended to be has dissolved into the silent aftermath of exposure. Judge Judy watches her with a mixture of sternness and something almost like sorrow, the kind a teacher feels when a student fails, not because they were incapable, but because they were too afraid to try another way. Karen, she begins, voice deliberate, there comes a moment where every person must face not only what they did, but who they became while doing it. Karen's breath shivers. She nods barely. You didn't set out to hurt anyone, Judy continues, but fear turned into control. Control turned into yelling, and yelling turned into a kind of power you used to silence someone who trusted you would be fair. The plaintiff lifts their eyes. Their pain is still there, etched into the lines of their expression, but something gentler has begun to filter through it. Karen's voice cracks. I know I was terrible. I know I scared her. I know I lied. I didn't mean for it to go this far. That, Judy says, is the problem with behavior that goes unchecked. It always goes farther than you intend. The audience is silent, unmoving, one collective breath waiting for the verdict to take shape. Karen finally looks at the plaintiff, not with defiance, not with defensiveness, but with the fragile humility of someone realizing there may be no way to repair what she broke. I'm sorry, she whispers again, not performative, not strategic, real. The plaintiff takes a moment before responding. I believe you, they say softly, but I still need space away from you. I still need to feel safe. Karen winces, but nods, absorbing the truth without fighting it this time. Judy leans forward, hands folded, her gaze steady and measured. You hurt someone who did nothing but ask to be treated with decency. You used pressure and intimidation instead of honesty. You twisted the truth so tightly that you nearly strangled it. Karen lowers her eyes, shoulders curving inward under the words. But, Judy continues, quieter now, you have taken responsibility today. That matters. It does not erase the harm, but it begins the repair. Karen's breath breaks. Relief and grief blend into something she cannot seem to contain. Judy straightens, the final measure of judgment gathering in her voice. The room tenses, not with fear, but with certainty. Everyone knows they are moments away from consequence. Judy folds the file shut and says, "Here is what is going to happen next." Before the final verdict, ask yourself, can people truly change? Or do they just grow tired of being caught? Karen's eyes are already lowered, as if she knows the verdict is not just coming, but deserved. Judge Judy lifts the file one last time, then closes it with a soft thud that rolls through the room like the end of a long, painful chapter. Karen flinches at the sound, though Judy's movements remain calm, controlled, almost gentle. It is the softness that unnerves Karen most, anger she could fight. But this quiet certainty, it leaves no room for resistance. "Karen," Judy begins, voice steady and deliberate, "the harm you caused cannot be undone, not by apologies, not by tears, and certainly not by pretending the truth was louder than your fear." Karen nods, wiping her face with shaking fingers. "But," Judy continues, "you did something important today. You stopped performing. You stopped interrupting. You let the truth speak louder than your panic." A single tear slips down Karen's cheek, not dramatic, not desperate, just honest. Judy turns to the plaintiff. "You showed patience, clarity, and more grace than was required of you. You gave this court the truth without raising your voice once." The plaintiff nods softly, eyes glistening with a mixture of relief and lingering hurt. Judy looks between them. "My ruling is simple. Karen, you are responsible for the damages. You will reimburse the plaintiff for every expense related to this conflict." Karen swallows hard but nods again, accepting the outcome without argument. "But financial restitution," Judy adds, "is only part of this consequence." Sandra stiffens, bracing. "You will also provide a written acknowledgement, signed and dated, confirming that your behavior was inappropriate, intimidating, and harmful. That acknowledgement will go to your workplace, the plaintiff, and this court." Karen's breath catches, but she does not protest. She simply says, "I understand." "Good," Judy replies, "because accountability is not about humiliation. It is about clarity. It prevents the same pattern from repeating." The plaintiff exhales, the tension finally loosening from their shoulders. A faint, grateful smile flickers, small but real. Karen dares to glance at them. "I'm truly sorry," she whispers, voice steady for the first time. "Not just for what I did, for why I did it." The plaintiff nods, not forgiveness but acknowledgement, a beginning, not an ending. Judy stands, the authority in her presence filling the room like light breaking through clouds. "This case," she says, "is not just about lies or interruptions or documents. It is about what happens when fear becomes louder than truth." Karen closes her eyes. The words land with the gentleness of truth, not punishment. Judy lifts her gavel. Judgment for the plaintiff. The sound of the gavel striking wood echoes like a final heartbeat, the kind that closes a wound rather than deepens it. As Karen steps back from the podium, smaller but undeniably changed, Judy adds one last line, soft but unforgettable. "Arrogance collapses quickly, accountability endures." And with that, the courtroom exhales, the weight finally lifting, leaving behind the quiet truth that justice, real justice, is not loud, it is steady, it is clear, it is earned,